What's going on, my homies? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am back with the Week 1 Battle of GBA Season 9, where your KC Jirachiefs are taking on Leader Geo and the San Francisco GiEnteis. If you happen to miss the team builder for this series of battles, make sure to check that out. It's going to be linked down on the first or second line of the description below, and there I'll go over all the details of the team that I'm bringing here for this game. Now, as most of you are probably aware at this point, this is a Let's Go Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee League for this season of the GBA, so it's going to play a lot differently than what we've done in the past. It's going to be a best of 3 for each week throughout the season, and for each of those battles it's going to be each of us bringing 4 Pokemon of the 6 that we bring to the match itself. We can pick any 4 different Pokemon for any of the 2 or 3 matches for that set. So that's basically how it's going to work here for this game. I'm not going to go over my sets here. Please check out the team builder to see all of that. And otherwise you'll just see them on the screen as we go. Make sure to check out my boy Geo as well. He'll be linked down in the description below. Awesome content creator. He always live comms his battles, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that as well. Now, as some of you might also know, in Let's Go you actually don't have access to a VS recorder, a versus recorder, so I'm not actually able to just pull a battle replay and post commentate over that. So I am going to still try to do a post commentary. I kind of took a live recording of the video and made a bunch of crops and edits. I'm going to try to commentate over that for this week. We'll just see how it goes. If you guys think it's too choppy, just let me know in the comments, please, and I might just transition over to doing live comms for this season instead. The main reason why I didn't do a live comm this week is I'm still kind of battling a little bit of a cough, and I didn't want you guys to have to hear that throughout the entire video. But anyways, we can go ahead and check out my man Geo's team that he brought. He brought the Mega Charizard X, Nidoqueen, Exeggutor, Hitmonlee, Tauros, and the Vaporeon. So these are the 6 Pokemon that I expected to come. The only other 2 Pokemon on his team are the Alolan Golem and the Ditto, neither of which really had a good matchup whatsoever against me this week, so I definitely expected those to come. Hitmonlee was kind of the question mark versus something like Alolan Golem, but ultimately he did bring the 6 that I expected. Now, as I mentioned in the team builder, my overall game plan revolves around setting dual screens and just overwhelming him with my physical offense of Aerodactyl and Mega Kangaskhan. So that's the goal here. My Raichu has dual screens, my Rapidash has Reflect, and my Aerodactyl has Reflect as well to help me 1v1 the Tauros. So you're going to see that as a theme here throughout this game. As you can see, I'm going to start off game 1 with the Alolan Raichu, Blastoise, Mega Kangaskhan, and the Aerodactyl as my 4 Mons. I think this is my best combination of 4 Mons that I could possibly bring for this best 2 out of 3 with Geo. I wanted to make sure I won game 1 this week. That was the goal here with this matchup, to make sure I win game 1, basically force him to adapt a certain way in game 2, and then approach game 2 with the idea of countering however he tries to adapt to what I did to him in game 1. So you'll kind of see that out unfold here in the first couple games, and we'll see if we're forced into a game 3. But we are going to go ahead and jump right on into this game against Geo. So of course, good luck to him. I'm going to lead off with my Alolan Raichu. It was my dedicated lead against his team for this combination of 4 Mons that I'm bringing. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I don't really care what he leads off with. There's very few things that can immediately force me out, and he actually decides to lead off with the Nidoqueen. Now, what's interesting about Nidoqueen in this game is obviously it doesn't have Sheer Force anymore, which makes it really a lot less threatening offensively, and it means it's more likely to run physically attacking moves. So I can just safely stay in and put up a Reflect against the Nidoqueen and take the Earthquake relatively well, not as well as I would have liked, but I'm going to go ahead and go for the Psychic with my Alolan Raichu just to get that chip damage off on the Nidoqueen, put it in guaranteed range of being knocked out by either Aerodactyl or the Mega Kangaskhan. That's what I need to do. I want to get his whole team into range of either of those 2 Pokemon and hopefully be able to clean up in the end. So I am going to lose my Alolan Raichu here, but excuse me, but I do get the reflect up early on in the game, which is really nice for sure. As now I'm going to go into my Kangaskhan. He really doesn't have great responses to this. This is an adamant Mega Kangaskhan with 4 attacks, very, very strong against this team. I'm just going to click Earthquake here because he can't switch into it. He's probably going to just sack this off, or maybe worst case scenario, he goes into something like Executor on my Earthquake, but even so, I still have the Ice Punch on the Mega Kangaskhan as well to be able to deal with it if that would have happened. So down goes the Nidoqueen. Is going to go into his Vaporeon, which is actually perfect for me as I am actually packing the Facade on this Kang. I'm going to go ahead and reveal it here against the Vaporeon, knowing that it should easily 3-hit KO, and if he does get a Scald Burn or a Toxics me like he decided to do here on this turn, then that means I'm going to have double the power on my Facades, and suddenly Kangaskhan actually has a usable normal stab here in this game. Is otherwise, I think the highest base power on any normal stab option it could have is like base 70 from Facade and Headbutt. It might get Giga Impact, I'm not sure on that, but even so, he did Toxic Poison me, so I'm going to have really strong Facades, and he just simply doesn't have switch-ins to that. So something's about to die. It's going to be the Vaporeon here. If he had brought maybe like the Tauros, he could have switched it in that situation and at least survived the hit, but I can understand why he wouldn't want to do that, as Tauros is most likely his win con here in this game. As he does just go into the Executor, and that's going to take a metric million from the Facade as well. Best move he has to hit me is the Mega Drain, which I do survive. So Mega Kangaskhan should be able to pick up yet another kill here in this game. Big Mama going in game 1 here against Geo, and it's going to knock out the Executor as well. So Mega Kangaskhan picking up 3 kills already in this game. That is crazy. That is almost a clean sweep here, as my Mega Kang is going to go down to the Toxic Poison, but not until it has put in a ton of work here in this game. So I am going to go just into my Aerodactyl. It should be able to beat any of the 3 possible remaining mons that it could have brought to this game, and he turns out to have brought the Tauros. Now the good thing about this situation is that I have Reflect on this Aerodactyl, and that is actually my designed way to 1v1 Tauros with this set. However, I don't actually have to reveal this because I still have my Blastoise in the back as well, and the combination of damage from my regular Aerodactyl, I wish I had Mega, damage from my regular Aerodactyl and my full health Blastoise in the back that has Scald should easily be enough to knock out the Tauros without revealing really what is my ace up my sleeve, the Reflect on my Aerodactyl, which makes it so hard for him to take out later on. So we are able to take down the Tauros here. I believe I got a flinch with one of my Rock Slides, so yeah, my bad on that, but we're able to pick up game 1 here, 2-0 over Geo, which was exactly as planned. The team really worked to perfection, honestly. The fact that he took more of a defensive approach, taking stuff like the Executor and the Vaporeon, I think really worked into Mega Kangaskhan's favor especially. That's really what Kang was designed to do. An adamant set like that with the coverage that I was bringing was really meant to help me beat down the more fat defensive mons that he could try to bring against me. So yeah, that definitely worked out well for me in game 1. But for game 2, as I kind of mentioned in the team builder, I am going to lead off with my Rapidash, expecting him to try to counter lead my Alolan Raichu as a way of maybe trying to stop me from getting up my dual screens. But my Rapidash actually has Reflect as well, so I should be able to get it up here in game 2. I'm expecting him to lead off with either the Mega Charizard X, the Executor, or maybe the Tauros. I live any hit from the Tauros if that's what he leads with. I obviously blow back the Executor, and I can get off a Reflect into some Drill Run damage on the Charizard X if I have to do that as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump on into game 2 here against Geo, and we'll see what he decides to lead with here, as he's going to actually choose to lead off with the Tauros. So that's probably one of the harder mons for me to deal with here on turn 1. And the moment he led Tauros was the moment that I kind of thought maybe I should have brought Will-O-Wisp on my Rapidash here for this week, but he actually opts to play it safe and just go back into his Vaporeon. So once again, he may have taken more of a defensive approach in this game, which would mean really good news for my Kangaskhan. But if he does take more of an offensive approach, then my Aerodactyl is a lot better of a win condition here in this game. So we'll just kind of see what he brought for this, but I am just going to go ahead and get up that free Reflect and then switch out into my Blastoise here, which is a pretty safe switch into the Vaporeon. Vaporeon doesn't have access to Wish in Let's Go, so it's not going to be able to recover, and especially if I'm able to get off a Toxic on this thing with my Blastoise, that's really good for my Aerodactyl and my Mega Kangaskhan later on in the game. as the Vaporeon is really the only thing he has to be able to take hits from both of those Pokemon with relative ease. So getting off this Toxic here on the Vaporeon is pretty huge. He also revealed Acid Armor, which was pretty cool prep on his part. It's not going to work out too well against my team just because I'm able to weaken it down relatively well with my Blastoise before even risking my Mega Kang or my Aerodactyl against the Vaporeon. But even so, it definitely could have worked against my team here in the right situation. So we do just trade Toxics. That's perfectly fine. I don't really need Blastoise to be able to deal with his Mega Charizard X, his Hitmonlee, his Tauros, whatever he decided to bring for this game. It would be nice to have, obviously, but I think it's definitely much more valuable to me to be able to weaken down this Vaporeon so that my offensive mons can overpressure him basically at the end of the game. So that's what I'm going for here. And again, like I mentioned, it really just depends on which other two Pokemon he decided to bring for this specific game. If they're more offensive, then my Aerodactyl is going to be the win con. If they are more defensive, then my Mega Kang, again, is going to be the win con in this game. So we'll just kind of see what happens excuse me, on this, as he's just going to try to weaken down my Blastoise with his Vaporeon, and I'm just going to basically trade here. Again, this is a good trade for me. This is what I want. This is what I need to do to be able to win, and I'm going to go ahead and reveal the Dragon Pulse. I kind of revealed all three of my offensive moves there in that exchange, which maybe that wasn't the best idea. I went for Ice Beam just in case he wanted to go into an Exeggutor, then I went for Scald just in case he wanted to try to make a really aggressive switch into Mega Charizard X before it Mega Evolves. And then ultimately just went for the Dragon Pulse to do as much damage as possible to the Vaporeon. And my Blastoise is now going to go down, I believe, to the Toxic Poison, but not before doing a ton of chip damage on this Vaporeon. Now I'm just going to be able to go straight into my Aerodactyl, knowing that he really doesn't have great responses to this. If he brought the Exeggutor, he still has to respect the fact that I might have Wing Attack on my Adamant Aerodactyl, and that would not feel very good for an Exeggutor for sure. So I'm just going to go straight for the Earthquake. It will knock out the Vaporeon here, and we'll just see what he decides to go into to try to check me, and his answer is the Tauros. So this is where it's so big that I was actually able to conceal the fact that I had Reflect on this set in Game 1, as now I'm going to be able to go for the Reflect. He misses his Rock Slide, which I'm sorry, Geo, yeah, that obviously sucks. However, it would have only done about 30% to my Aerodactyl. You'll see an example of that here very soon. This Rock Slide's going to connect, and it's going to do approximately 0 to my Aerodactyl behind the Reflect. So sure, damage is damage, but it really wouldn't have made too big of a difference, I don't think, in the end. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it would have... It didn't hurt him as much as it could have, I guess, considering the fact that I did have Reflect. But even so, I am going to be able to fire off a Rock Slide followed by an Earthquake here to get a little more chip damage off on the Tauros. And just one more, or I guess that was the second one. So that's going to knock out the Tauros here as well. And Aerodactyl's looking in a pretty good position, especially with the Reflect still up at this point in the game. As Nidoqueen comes in, I'm expecting this to be a defensive variant with either Ice Punch or Ice Beam, unless he is a boosting nature being Modest or Adamant, or specifically Modest, actually. That's the only way he'd be able to knock me out here with this Ice Beam, I believe. I am able to chew the Ice Beam, which clearly was not boosted at all. My Aerodactyl is going to be able to knock out the Nidoqueen. Then with 2 Earthquakes, leaving him with exactly 1 Pokemon left on his team against my 3, and that last Pokemon is the Charizard. So all I have to do is hit a Rock Slide and then go into my Mega Kangaskhan or my Rapidash to finish him off. So I'm just going to go for that Rock Slide here. It should do a good chunk of damage to this Charizard, but unfortunately Aerodactyl is blind here on this turn, but that's totally fair. I flinched him earlier and he also missed a Rock Slide, so I'm not upset about that whatsoever, as he's just going to knock me out with a Flare Blitz. So down goes my Aerodactyl, but now I'm going to be able to go into my Rapidash and basically set up the Reflect to ensure that I'm going to be able to win in the end with my Mega Kangaskhan. I don't want him to get incredibly lucky. If he's like a Jolly Mega Charizard X, because my Kangaskhan's Adamant, that would outspeed me. Maybe he crits a Flare Blitz. Maybe he crits one of his 2 Flare Blitzes and knocks out my Mega Kangaskhan, then he'd probably also be able to knock out my Rapidash, I think, before I'm able to knock him out. So this was basically just the safer route overall that I could possibly take to be able to win this game. It basically requires him to like triple crit me with his Charizard to win. So I'll take those odds here for sure. So I'm going to set up the Reflect and fire off a Drill Run on the Charizard X. He will knock me out with 2 Earthquakes. As now I'm going to go back into my Mega Kangaskhan to see if we can finish off this game against Geo. As Mega Kangaskhan does come out, I'm going to click Earthquake, and we'll just have to see what the Charizard decides to go for as I Mega Evolve. Click the Earthquake button, and as you're going to see in just a second, I'm actually going to outspeed the Charizard X. I did not expect that whatsoever. Basically, what that tells me is that he is probably an adamant Mega Kangaskhan, and that was a speed tie. Or what the truth actually was, and Geo told me about this after the game, is that thing was clicking counter. So that is crazy. If that counter was able to come off and actually hit my Kangaskhan, I would have lost that game. It would have entirely ignored the reflect, and I would have lost that game. But fortunately, according to Geo, that was actually not a roll from an adamant Mega Kang that would have been able to knock out the Charizard 100% of the time. So we do manage to pull out the win in Game 2, winning the whole series 2-0. So your KC Jirachiefs are now 1-0 in the GBA Season 9. So yeah, that was a pretty cool game, pretty exciting game. That was my first series of games in Let's Go for draft format. I played a little bit on the ladder just to get familiar with the mechanics, and I guess just how much the game has really changed as a result of having so many less moves that are available on your Pokemon. There's no abilities, no items. That does make a big difference on the game, but really the Let's Go game as a whole is very much so centered around positioning in the late game, which Pokemon has always been that way, but I think it's especially even more so the case for Let's Go, just because speed is so important, and if you can position your fast mons in a way, in the right way, you should be able to win most of your games, I feel. So speed is just so important, and running the dual screens in this matchup really helped my speedy mons, my Aerodactyl, my Rapidash, my Raichu. It really helped all of those mons shine against Geo's generally fatter team that wasn't really able to keep up with the dual screens kind of bulky offensive approach that it took here for this game. So the team worked out really well, so I'm definitely happy about that. So that about wraps up this week of the GBA. Next week we have a game against my good pal 6-foot Hacks Leo and the Durham Druddigons. That should be a really exciting game, a pretty tricky matchup as well, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Make sure to drop a like, and also make sure to answer the question of the day. Now that you have seen the battle, what is your opinion on Pokemon Let's Go in the Draft League format? I know a lot of you guys, I know it's a pretty controversial topic, honestly. I know a lot of the GBA fans aren't the happiest that we're trying a Let's Go season for this season of the GBA, but I think it's worth the try. I think it could be pretty fun. I thought this game was pretty fun, and honestly, I was able to have fun building too. It was pretty simple building, I think, for the most part. There weren't too many options to necessarily consider, but it was still fun, and I've always found that building is the most fun aspect of draft format, and I was still able to have fun building for this week 1. So I think it still has potential. It's refreshing. At the very least, it is refreshing. We're in the middle of I believe a 3-year generation between Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon. It'll be 3 years from start to finish of this generation before Generation 8 is released, I believe, at the end of this year. So it's nice to have something that is kind of a mix-up, right? This is a total mix-up compared to what we've seen for the past several years. Really, draft format has only ever seen ORAS, XY, which is just Generation 6, and then Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon Generation 7. So this is totally new. I understand that it might seem a little bit off, not really what we're used to, but I think it still has a lot of potential, and this game to me was pretty fun to play, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as well. So I'll quit rambling on that for now. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to let me know what you think about the format in the comments below, and also what you think about the video format as well, like I mentioned earlier. Do you enjoy this style of post-commentary? Was it too choppy, or would you prefer to just see live comms here in the future? Just let me know on that. I'm curious to see your responses there. But that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.